Thank you. With pick number 36 in the 2011 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Colin Kaepernick, quarterback, Nevada.
So Jim Harbaugh picking a quarterback.
I'll tell you what, a heck of a player for Chris Salt out at Nevada. They won a lot of football games because of Colin Kaepernick, his ability to throw the football and run the football out of that pistol offense. Over 4,000 rushing yards during his career, over 9,000 passing yards during his career. It's the best ever for an NCAA quarterback. He's 6'4 and a half, 231 pounds. He's a competitor. He's smart, very well-spoken young man, a class act.
Kaepernick steps up, will try and run to pick it up. He's got a touchdown. Got to get it into the end zone. That's Crabtree, and he does. Second down and 4. Kaepernick keeps it. Fooled everybody. Colin Kaepernick, what a game. Touchdown.
At 10, Colin Kaepernick is under fire after taking a seat during the national anthem. Tonight, Niners fans are calling the move disrespectful. Good evening, I'm Brian Hackney.
And I'm Juliette Goodrich. KPIX5's Keiko Guerin is live at Levi Stadium, where some younger fans had an opinion about what Kaepernick did. Kate.
They most certainly did, Juliette and Brian. Well, the 49ers, though, have made it clear in a statement Americans do have the right to either support or protest the national anthem. But fans I spoke with earlier at a high school football game here are still divided. South Bay High School football players tore up Levi's gridiron today, the same field as some of their NFL idols.
I think they're inspired. I mean, you see a different level of play when they come out here and they play on this stage.
This is an experience of a lifetime for these guys. I mean, to play on the field, the people they idolize, like the Niners, it's fantastic.
Fantastic opportunity for these young NFL hopefuls to play on Niner territory. But one 49er is facing a firestorm, not for what he did on this field, but for what he didn't do. Colin Kaepernick, pictured here, is now a quarterback questioned for choosing not to stand at last night's preseason game against the Green Bay Packers. In a statement to NFL.com, Kaepernick said, "I am not going to stand up to show pride in a flag for a country that oppresses black people and people of color. There are bodies in the street and people getting paid leave and getting away with murder."
Sometimes when you make decisions, they're not always popular, and people are going to hate him for it. But I think overall, I think people are going to look at it and say, you know what, he's got a point.
Other Kaepernick fans told me,
"What's going on today is not good. It needs to stop."
But the venue he chose to do it in?
He chose to do it in. I don't know if I agree with that part.
I think if kids are idolizing or looking up to athletes like that, I think they need to set a better example.
49ers coach Chip Kelly.
We recognize his right to do that, so it's not my right to tell him not to do something. You know, that's his right as a citizen.
Right cause, but some say wrong place.
He needs to leave the 49ers quick.
49ers coach Chip Kelly says this isn't the first time Kaepernick has sat out the national anthem. In fact, an NFL.com reporter noted that Kaepernick has been doing this the entire preseason. It's just the first time he's done it in uniform. Reporting live at Levi Stadium, Kate Kogier, KPIX5.
I mean, ultimately, it's to bring awareness and make people, realize what's really going on in this country. There are a lot of things that are going on that are unjust, people aren't being held accountable for. And that's something that needs to change. That's something that, this country stands for: freedom, liberty, justice for all. And it's not happening for all right now.
Well, Rich, just over my shoulder, Colin Kaepernick is warming up with his teammates on the field. But a little bit later tonight, about 100 feet to my right on the sideline, he is expected to kneel once again and protest to what he says are social injustices to African Americans. And just more than a month ago when he started this, he sat alone. That is no longer the case.
Oh, say, can you see?
The lyrics of the national anthem rang out in Levi Stadium for what, so we thought, was a meaningless preseason game. But what went mostly unnoticed at the time surely is anything but meaningless now.
to bring awareness and make people realize what's really going on in this country. There are a lot of things that are going on that are unjust, people aren't being held accountable for, and that's something that needs to change.
In the effort to stand for what he believed in, his action to sit was later lifted to taking a knee. As 5 weeks have passed, each day offering a new voice, a new form of support, another point of conflict.
You got to respect the flag. It's bigger than just you.
The reason these guys are kneeling, the reason we're locking arms is to bring people together, to make people aware that this is not right.
Colin Kaepernick's protest to evoke attention to social injustices has spurred reaction and action unlike any we've seen in recent decades. Here we are, in the midst of a social movement where a quarterback, once known for flexing his biceps to celebrate a touchdown, now sits as a backup and kneels for what he believes in.
When there's significant change, and I feel like that flag represents what it's supposed to represent, and this country is representing people the way that it's supposed to, I'll stand.
Kaepernick's gesture and voice have resonated unlike anything we've witnessed by or from an athlete in years.
This isn't something I'm going to ask other people to put their necks out for what I'm doing. If they agree with me and feel strongly about it, then by all means, I hope they stand with me.
With Kaepernick pushing down the first domino, we've seen potentially prudent dialogue broached between players and political officials in some markets, like Seattle.
This is called unity. Now we're going to push the needle.
As players, coaches, veterans, and politicians all have their opinion and are expressing it.
Mr. Kaepernick, he's exercising his constitutional right to make a statement. I think he cares about some real, legitimate issues that have to be talked about.
We, at some point, are pushed to look at a new household name. Not one who was once a Super Bowl starter with a revolutionary style of play, but instead at a backup on a struggling team with a revolutionary cause. All right, we've got to keep this real because we have seen that Kaepernick's action has been polarizing and unifying. I mean, he's somebody whose jersey is a top seller, but we have a poll that shows he's the most disliked player in the NFL. He's been social media fodder on the daily, but he's been on the cover of Time magazine. And when this game kicks off in a few hours, though, he's slated to be a bench warmer, and that's going to be one of the few times in recent weeks where he's merely been a footnote.
There's a lot of things that need to change. One specifically is police brutality. There's people being murdered unjustly and not being held accountable. Cops are getting paid leave for killing people. That's not right. That's not right by anyone's standards. There is police brutality. People of color have been targeted by police. So that's a large part of it, and they're government officials. They're put in place by the government. So, you know, that's something that this country has to change. There's things we can do to, you know, hold them more accountable, make those standards higher. You have people that practice law and are lawyers and go to school for 8 years, but you can become a cop in 6 months and don't have to have the same amount of training as a cosmetologist. That's insane. I mean, someone that's holding a curling iron has more education and more training than people that have a gun and are going out on the street to protect us.
I want to bring in former Marine bomb technician, Staff Sergeant Johnny Joey Jones, who tweeted this: "Hey Kaepernick, I don't have legs, but I'll stand with enough pride for both of us every time my national anthem plays." Good evening, sir, and obviously you have a strong reaction to Kaepernick refusing to stand during the national anthem. Your thoughts, sir?
Absolutely. Good evening, Greta. I actually took issue with his comments afterwards. Refusing to stand, that's one thing, and it offends me, it really does, but that is free speech. But his comments equated patriotism or pride in this country or that anthem to supporting oppression. Listen, by no means is our country perfect, and by all means, let's address actual issues and work to solve them. But when you sit there and equate my pride in my country to a bigot in some other place, or the ones that are in this country to the 300 million that aren't that way, I take issue with that, and I'm going to tell you about it, especially when you use your platform that way.
Colonel, he's now probably had a little extra time to think about it, and I've asked both of you for what suggestions how he can restore himself. If he elects not to and digs his heels in even deeper, Then what? Should the NFL do something?
Well, there are consequences to your actions, and I just want to say that what you have on your show tonight are two young men, both from Georgia, from different backgrounds, but guess what? We both took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. We both took an oath to stand and make sure that we defended this way of life. And if this young man does not understand how this is such a great nation and it affords opportunities for young Johnny and Alan West to be together, we're missing out on what this country is. And the NFL is going to have to make a tough decision, because when you look at the St. Louis Rams, who came out with the hands up, don't shoot, that was a false narrative. You look at the denial of the decal on the Dallas Cowboys helmet. What are they going to do in the instance of Colin?
Staff Sergeant, what should the NFL do, if anything?
I think the NFL has an excellent opportunity to set a policy and abide by it. I don't think they should ask Colin Kaepernick to stand. I think they should allow those decals on the Dallas Cowboys helmets, but that's neither here nor there. I hope that Colin Kaepernick comes out and further explains what he's passionate about, and that he understands that's not the 330 million Americans that fall under that anthem and support it. That's the ones we're going to weed out, and that's the things we're going to fix. And, I believe that's what he'll do. I pray that's what he'll do. I pray for him. And I know this country is better than what we're seeing, and I know we're going to get there.
Colonel West, Sergeant Jones.
Greta,
yes?
And Greta, if I could say, opening day for the NFL is 9/11. I don't think that Colin wants the optic of him sitting on the sideline.
I'm sure he doesn't, and I'm sure his team doesn't. I'm sure the owners don't want that. I don't think the fans want that. Anyway, Colonel, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, Sergeant Jones.
I have great respect for men and women that have fought for this country. I have family, I have friends that have gone and fought for this country. And they fight for freedom. They fight for the people. They fight for liberty and justice for everyone. And that's not happening. I mean, people are dying in vain because this country isn't holding their end of the bargain up as far as, giving freedom and justice and liberty to everybody. It's something that's not happening. And I've seen videos, I've seen circumstances where men and women that have been in the military have come back and been treated unjustly by the country they fought for, and have been murdered by the country they fought for on our land. That's not right.
49ers QB Colin Kaepernick refusing to stand for the national anthem and to protest violence against black people. Even the president weighed in on it, saying he understands why some veterans might be unhappy, but that it does shed light on a topic that needs to be discussed. And apparently he's getting a lot of, had to blowback from people and a lot of support. So what do you think?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's your constitutional right to protest, and I think there are members of the WNBA and even LeBron James that wore Black Lives Matter on their shirts during practice, and Colin Kaepernick is active in Black Lives Matter, and I say kudos to those particular players. But the issue that I have here is that it's just so disrespectful to our American anthem, and it's somewhat contradictory because here he is playing an American sport, getting paid American money from American fans, and yet he can't stand for our American anthem.
He is an American. Let's start.
He is an American.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, he is an American.
And that is the right of an American not to stand or not to.
It is a right.
That's all right.
It is a right, but it's very disrespectful. It's very disrespectful not to stand for an anthem that represents what our country is and the lives that were lost.
Continue to sit?
Yes, I'll continue to sit. I'm going to continue to stand with the people that are being oppressed. To me, this is something that has to change. And when there's significant change, and I feel like that flag represents what it's supposed to represent, and this country is representing people the way that it's supposed to, I'll stand.
Specifically, what would you like to see personally?
There have been situations where I feel like I've been ill-treated, yes, but this stand wasn't for me. This stand wasn't because I feel like I'm being put down in any kind of way. This is because I'm seeing things happen to people that don't have a voice, people that don't have a platform to talk and have their voices heard and affect change. So I'm in a position where I can do that, and I'm going to do that for people that can't.
Is this the first year that...
The answer that I have, too, is that
he's on a team, and he's a team leader. And so I don't think that causes conflict because it doesn't represent the whole team. And I think that one way that he's doing it, he is donating $1 million to various charities, and I think that's a better way for him to do it. I think he should do it off the field. I don't think as a team leader, if he were an individual sportsman, it would be different. But
no, I don't see it as a distraction. I think it's something that can unify this team. It's something that can unify this country. You know, if we have these real conversations that are uncomfortable for a lot of people, if we have these conversations, there's a better understanding where both sides are coming from. And if we reach common ground and can understand what everybody's going through, we can really affect change and make sure that everybody's treated equally and has the same freedom.
You know, what he's talking about is a very big problem, racism in America. It's very difficult, I think, for the average individual to fight racism in America. That's very difficult. So this is his way of bringing it to people's attention, and he's using his constitutional right. It's ironic, isn't it, that the thing that you have to do is actually burn the flag, don't stand up, don't put your hand. Those are the things that make it more American. That's the beauty of the Constitution. It makes it even more American to do that.
No one's tried to quiet me, and to be honest, it's not something I'm gonna be quiet about. I'm gonna speak the truth when I'm asked about it. This isn't for a look, this isn't for publicity or anything like that. This is for people that don't have the voice. And this is for people that are being oppressed and need to have equal opportunities, to be successful, to provide for their families and not live in poor circumstances.
For any NFL team to think that he's an embarrassment, to think that he somehow has undermined the league's credibility, their integrity, that he's somehow an embarrassment to a shield is frankly embarrassing in itself. So let me get this straight. Hit a woman, be accused of sexual assault, commit sexual assault, you do all those things. And they don't come out and say they don't call anybody an embarrassment. I've seen far more press conferences of GMs and owners and coaches sticking by their guys amid some pretty murky and disgusting circumstances. But that's all good. But here's somebody who's trying to stand for justice and for equality, and you consider that to be somehow embarrassing your NFL that has no problem employing some people who have done some pretty undesirable things.
Colin Kaepernick, do you think he can play again in the NFL?
I sure hope so. I've always watched him and admired him, the way that he's played. He, was a great young quarterback. He came to our stadium and beat us and took his team to the Super Bowl in 2012. He accomplished a lot in the pros as a player, and he's certainly qualified, and I hope he gets a shot.
This isn't something I'm going to ask other people to, put their necks out for what I'm doing. If they agree with me and feel strongly about it, then by all means, I hope they stand with me. But I'm not going to go and try to recruit people and make sure hey, come do this with me, because I know the consequences that come with that, and they need to make that decision for themselves.
Team was bad, and given how bad they were and how he played, I think that says a lot. And you know what else says a lot? What his other teammates thought about him.
He got the highest award that can be bestowed upon a Niners player for that organization. So his teammates thought highly of him, the organization thought highly of him. He was not a so-called distraction.
Colin Kaepernick may not technically be on an NFL roster, but he's getting some love from the NFL Players Association. The NFLPA announced Friday that Kaepernick was the winner of the Week 1 Community MVP Award in honor of his, quote, commitment to empowering underserved communities through donations and grassroots outreach. Kaepernick announced last season he would donate $1 million along with all the proceeds from his jersey sales to 24 different organizations and charities. Kaepernick remains unsigned after opting out of his contract with the 49ers in March.
Muhammad Ali is not too much different than Colin Kaepernick.
He sacrificed. He gave up the prime of his career to stand up for something he believed in. When you take a stance that Kaepernick did, you are jeopardizing future employment. That's precisely why people admired it.
Colin Kaepernick, he is the one of the few 49ers this year that comes out without playoff experience, playing experience.
But here's somebody who's trying to stand for justice and for equality, and you consider that to be somehow embarrassing your NFL that has no problem employing some people who have done some pretty undesirable things.
The dawn's early light.
The near side, intercepted by the Packers, running down the near sideline and taking it in. A pick six by Sam Shields.
The police in this country were not initially formed to serve and protect. They were put in place to control minorities.
Every week, we just see police officers going mental.
Well, the one devastating mistake that every 49er hoped that Kaepernick would avoid in his first playoff game, and he makes it on his first series.
Colin Kaepernick shouldn't be ashamed of what he did. America should be ashamed of what they're doing.
Kaepernick steps up, will try and run to pick it up.
He has NFL ability. His job. 15, to the 10, to the 5, to the corner and in. Touchdown 49ers.
All those people.
Go ahead, Colin Kaepernick. We're proud of you.
Where are you now?
Images of police beating protesters and other innocent bystanders has become a normality as America sinks into the depths of a tyrannical police state.
The lessons should not be when people protest, when they use their First Amendment right to protest things. The lesson should not be that's a cautionary tale because it winds up bad for them. It should be, look, they were willing to jeopardize things, to be self-sacrificial on the altar of a greater cause.
Kaepernick had 16 touchdowns and 4 interceptions last year when he was healthy enough to play for his third coach in 3 years.
I don't think there's any question he's being blackballed.
Colin Kaepernick, by the way, has won, 4 playoff games? 3 of them?
3 years removed from the Super Bowl.
3 of them.
Here's Harris cutting back. DeJuan Harris for the touchdown.
Just to defend the police for a minute and show that they're not always shooting black people, let's show the film that happened this week where they're shooting a Hispanic man. This is Pasco, Washington. Look, this guy was throwing rocks at the cops, then he ran away. There is something systemic wrong here. And again, not all cops, but tell me why that is not cowardly.
The idea that Colin Kaepernick, well, he's not Tom Brady, but the idea that Colin Kaepernick can't play for some team and that he isn't among the 50 or 60 best quarterbacks who could play in the NFL is ridiculous.
Kaepernick.
He has shown what he can do when he runs and throws at a high level and has got a coach who can put him in that position.
Because while in custody in the Ferguson jail in 2009, officers grabbed him and pushed him and struck him multiple times. They say they were provoked, although oddly, there is no video of this incident, despite the fact the jail is equipped with video cameras.
Since 1996, in response to the war on drugs, the Department of Defense transferred $4.3 billion in military equipment to local and state police.
Forced, no-knock entries into private homes, and now for almost any reason at all, like serving warrants.
The decision has been made that people aren't going to bring Colin Kaepernick into their team to play.
Has anybody here tonight ever heard of Doraville, Georgia? Me neither. But it's a town of 8,000 people, and they have their own tank. So does Nixon, Missouri, and Justice, Illinois.
Here's another patronizing test. Let's take it all away from them, and if they can make it through a whole month without killing a single unarmed black man, then and only then can they get their fucking toys back.
Colin Kaepernick has been forced to address rumors that he converted to Islam.
Did you hear that he converted to Islam a couple of months ago? Did you hear this?
It's not true.
So the reason they're saying that Kaepernick is a Muslim is because they consider it a smear.
Colin Kaepernick is better than some of the 32 now starting quarterbacks in the league.
Absolutely.
I'm going to go there. I'm going to say he's being blackballed.
Just before we get into this, who pays his check?
The owners.
All right, and who do we think's blackballing Colin Kaepernick?
Oh, the owners.
Oh, weird.
Who would he make better? He'd make a lot of teams better. He would make a lot of teams better. Better QBR last year than Tannehill, Cam, Wentz, Eli, Bortles, Fitzpatrick, Keenum.
Oh, how about the fact that, I don't know, Ryan Fitzpatrick, for instance, right? He's got a job. You know that man threw 23 interceptions when he was 29 years old?
37-year-old Alton Sterling, a black man, is pinned down by 2 white police officers.
Police in Louisiana this morning are investigating the deadly police shooting of a black man.
The video appears to show a Baton Rouge policeman shooting the 37-year-old man as officers held him down on the ground.
Not everybody is being shot by the cops. When we see these tapes, we are seeing black men, for the most part, being shot. And I think that we have to just address the elephant in the room.
My son is not the youngest. He is the oldest of his siblings. He is 15 years old. He had to watch this as this was put all over the outlets and everything that was possible to be shown.
When that team was together with a solid coach and a solid GM relationship, he played well.
The turn and Kaepernick keeps it going outside of the right. He's running down the near side, and Kaepernick is gone. Colin Kaepernick with a great fake. He faked out the entire stadium, and he runs it 56 yards for a 49er touchdown.
We know that Jerry Jones just signed a 36-year-old backup under the guise of, and I loosely quote, we need a quarterback for the future.
He just shot his arm off. We got pulled over on Larpener.
I told him not to reach for it. I told him to get his hand out.
You told him to get his ID, sir, and his driver's license.
And there is no justification for a society where my son has a far greater chance of being stopped, held, killed than your son, simply because he's black.
Because if you're really worried about what this guy who decided to take a social action stance, and that was his decision, who has committed no crimes, right. You're worried about what idiot fans, and yes, I will say that because you're an idiot fan, if this offends you more than murderers, drug addicts, wife beaters, these are the people that don't bother you, this one does, this is a blackball.